Let me ask you something. How do you know if you've truly grown? Not just older, but wiser. You see, age alone doesn't bring maturity. I've met young people with the wisdom of an elder, and I've met elders still trapped in the patterns of their youth. Emotional maturity isn't about how many birthdays you've had. It's about how you face life's storms, how you treat others, and how you handle yourself when nobody's watching. In this video, we're diving into 8 powerful signs that show you've stepped into real emotional maturity. And trust me, some of these may surprise you because they're not about being perfect. They're about being honest, steady, and free. So stay with me, because what you're about to hear could change the way you see yourself and the way others experience you. And if this message resonates, make sure to subscribe so we can walk this journey together. Let me share something most people spend a lifetime avoiding. Taking responsibility. It's easy to point the finger. Easy to say, "It wasn't my fault. They made me do it. Life was unfair." And maybe that's true. Life is unfair. People will disappoint you. Circumstances won't always favor you. But here's the truth. None of that changes the fact that your life is still yours. A man or a woman who has reached emotional maturity doesn't waste energy blaming the world. Instead, they look in the mirror and say, "This part is on me. I could have chosen differently, and next time I will." Think about it. When was the last time you made a mistake, big or small? Did you own it, or did you try to explain it away? Most people defend, justify, or run from their errors, but the strongest among us, they admit it. And in that moment of honesty, something powerful happens. The mistake stops being a burden and becomes a lesson. I remember a time I lost my temper in a conversation with someone I cared about. For days, I tried to convince myself it was their fault, that they pushed me, that they didn't listen. But deep down, I knew. My reaction was mine. When I finally admitted that, the relationship began to heal. Why? Because ownership builds trust, and trust is the currency of every meaningful connection. Responsibility isn't about being perfect. It's about courage. The courage to say, "Yes, I fell short, but I'm not staying there." That's where growth begins. That's how you move forward without carrying the weight of excuses on your back. So ask yourself today, what part of your life have you been blaming on others when deep down you know it's yours to claim?
One of the most powerful signs of emotional maturity isn't loud, flashy, or obvious. It's quiet. It happens in the moments when nobody else is watching. It's the ability to stop, look inward, and ask yourself the hard questions. Did I do the right thing? Could I have handled that better? What does this moment teach me? Self-reflection is like holding up a mirror to your own soul. And let me tell you, it's not always comfortable. Sometimes you see strength. Other times you see mistakes you'd rather ignore. But growth never comes from pretending. Growth comes from facing the truth with honesty. I remember a season in my life when I kept repeating the same conflict with people around me. At first, I thought it was them, their attitude, their lack of understanding. But after a while, I started asking, what role do I play in this pattern? And that one question changed everything. Suddenly, I could see where my words, my tone, my impatience were part of the problem. Here's the secret. People who never reflect keep living the same year over and over again. Different faces, different places, same mistakes. But those who pause, who examine themselves, they turned their past into a teacher. Every failure becomes a lesson. Every setback becomes a chance to adjust. So let me ask you, when was the last time you sat quietly and reviewed your own actions, not with judgment, but with honesty? Because the habit of self-reflection is what turns life's chaos into wisdom. And wisdom is what keeps you steady when the storms come.
There's a fine line between caring for others and losing yourself in the process. Most of us were taught that being kind means putting everyone else first. We bend, we adjust, we take on other people's problems as if they were our own. And while empathy is a gift, without boundaries, it becomes a weight that drags us down. True emotional maturity looks different. It's the ability to step into someone else's shoes, to feel their pain, to understand their perspective, but without letting it consume you. Think about it. Have you ever listened to a friend unload their struggles, and afterward you felt drained, almost as if the problem now belonged to you? That's what happens when compassion isn't balanced with strength. A mature person listens deeply, offers support, and says, "I'm here for you," but they don't let another person's storm pull them under. They know where they end and the other begins. That's not coldness, that's wisdom. I once had a colleague going through a crisis. Every conversation felt heavy, and I found myself carrying his emotions home. Until one day, I realized I wasn't helping him by drowning with him. I was only helping when I stayed grounded, calm, steady, like a lighthouse in his storm. That's what empathy really is. Not losing yourself, but holding steady so others can find their way. So ask yourself, when you care for others, are you giving from a place of strength, or are you quietly losing pieces of yourself? Because real compassion doesn't require self-sacrifice. It requires presence, balance, and the courage to stay whole while offering your heart. Most people think emotional maturity means being strong all the time, never shaken, never showing weakness. But that's not strength. That's a mask. Real strength comes from the courage to be vulnerable. Now, vulnerability doesn't mean spilling your emotions everywhere or exposing your wounds to anyone who will listen. It means being willing to show your true self, to say, "This is what I feel, this is what matters to me." That honesty is what builds connection. Think about the people you trust most. Are they the ones who always act like they've got it all figured out? Or are they the ones who let you see behind the curtain, who admit, "I struggled too, but I'm here with you"? Vulnerability doesn't push people away, it draws them closer. I remember a conversation with my son years ago. I wanted to give him advice, to be the strong father. But instead, I told him about my own mistakes, the times I failed, and how I picked myself back up. And you know what happened? He didn't see me as weaker. He saw me as real. That moment built more trust than 100 polished speeches ever could. The truth is, when you hide behind a wall, you may feel safe, but you also stay alone. When you open the door, yes, there's risk, but there's also the possibility of love, understanding, and healing. So ask yourself,
What would happen if, instead of pretending to be unshakable, you let someone see the real you? Because the courage to be vulnerable, that's not weakness. That's the deepest kind of strength.
Holding on feels natural. When someone hurts us, the mind clings to the memory like armor. I'll never forget what they did. We think that by holding on, we're protecting ourselves. But in reality, we're just carrying the weight of someone else's mistake on our own shoulders. Emotional maturity means learning to forgive and let go. Not because what happened was okay, not because the person deserves it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness is not a gift you give them, it's a gift you give yourself. Think about how many nights you've lost replaying old conversations. How many moments were stolen because your mind was trapped in the past. Every time you relive that pain, you hand over your present joy to something that's already gone. I remember a friend who carried bitterness toward his brother for decades. Family gatherings were tense, conversations shallow. One day, he decided to forgive, not to excuse the past, but to free himself from it. And the change was immediate. He was lighter. He laughed again. He lived again. That's what letting go does. It restores your life. The Stoics remind us, you cannot control what others do, only how you respond. And clinging to resentment is like drinking poison, hoping the other person suffers. Forgiveness is choosing to stop poisoning yourself. So, ask yourself, what grudges are you still carrying? Who still lives rent-free in your mind? What would your life look like if you finally put that weight down? Because the moment you let go, you don't lose power, you gain it. You reclaim your freedom.
Stress is not the enemy. It's simply part of being alive. The question isn't whether stress will come. It always does. The real question is, how will you meet it? Most people let stress take the wheel. Their pulse races, their voice rises, they react before they think, and afterward, they regret it. But emotional maturity means you don't let stress control you. You learn to control your response. Think about it. When a storm hits, does the tree with the stiffest branches survive? No, it's the one that bends, the one that sways with the wind, but doesn't break. That's how we must be with stress. Flexible, steady, unshaken. I remember a time when I faced a crisis at work. Deadlines, conflict, pressure from every direction. My younger self would have exploded, snapped at people, maybe even walked away. But instead, I paused. I stepped outside, breathed deeply, and reminded myself, this moment will pass. Don't let it own you. And it worked. I returned calm, and the situation resolved with clarity instead of chaos. Here's the truth. Managing stress isn't about avoiding pressure. It's about mastering presence. It's the ability to take a step back, breathe, and choose your next move instead of being dragged by emotion. So let me ask you, when stress knocks at your door, do you let it storm through your mind unchecked? Or do you greet it with calm, knowing you have the power to respond instead of react? Because once you master that, stress no longer breaks you, it shapes you.
Have you ever said something in anger only to wish you could take it back the very next second? That's the danger of impulsive reactions. In the heat of the moment, we let emotion take the wheel, and it drives us straight into regret. Emotional maturity is the ability to pause before the damage is done, to feel the fire rising inside you, and still choose silence. That silence isn't weakness, it's strength, because in that pause, you reclaim control. Think of it this way. A match can light a candle, or it can burn down a house. The flame itself isn't the problem. It's what you do with it. Anger, frustration, even fear, these emotions aren't enemies. But if you act on them without thought, they can destroy what you've spent years building. I remember once being publicly criticized at a meeting. Every part of me wanted to snap back to defend my pride. But instead, I bit my tongue. I let the moment breathe. Later, when I spoke, my words were measured, steady, and the entire room listened. If I had lashed out, I would have lost respect. By waiting, I gained it. The Stoics taught, you always have power over your mind, not outside events. That's the essence of self-control. You can't always choose what happens, but you can always choose how to respond. So ask yourself, when life pushes your buttons, are you a slave to impulse or a master of restraint? Because in that single breath, in that pause before reacting, lies the difference between chaos and wisdom.
One of the clearest signs of emotional maturity is this: you stop living only for the moment and you start living for the future. Our culture worships instant gratification. Fast food, quick money, constant scrolling. Everywhere you look, the message is, why wait? You deserve it now. But here's the truth. Anything worth having takes time. Patience is the currency of real success. Think about a farmer. He doesn't plant a seed today and expect fruit tomorrow. He waters it, tends it, waits through seasons. That patience is what brings the harvest. Life is no different. I remember when I was younger, I chased quick wins, spending money as fast as I earned it, jumping from one opportunity to the next. But the older I got, the more I saw the men and women who built lasting lives, the ones with peace and stability, were the ones who played the long game. They invested in their health, their relationships, their purpose, not just the thrill of the moment. The Stoics taught us, don't trade what you want most for what you want now. That's the real battle. And every time you choose discipline over impulse, you prove to yourself that your future matters more than your cravings. So let me ask you, what goals are you willing to wait for? What seeds are you planting today that your future self will thank you for? Because emotional maturity isn't about denying joy. It's about choosing the kind of joy that lasts.
So there you have it, 8 clear signs of emotional maturity. Not perfection, not a life without mistakes, but the quiet strength of someone who takes responsibility, reflects, forgives, and chooses wisdom over impulse. Remember, maturity is not a destination, it's a practice. Every day, you get the chance to show up a little calmer, a little wiser, a little stronger, and those small choices add up to a life of depth, peace, and respect. Now, I'd like to ask you, which of these signs spoke to you the most today, and which one will you focus on strengthening this week? Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. If this message resonated, give this video a like and subscribe for more reflections like this. Together, we'll keep building lives of meaning, strength, and balance, because real maturity is the freedom to live with clarity,